Great. Chair Giles, we are ready to go.
Well, welcome. I call the meeting of the Bond Oversight Committee meeting for our 16th meeting on December 2nd, 2020 at 5:30 to order. Welcome everybody. And we are wrapping things up. So thank you all for your service and your attendance tonight in wrapping this thing up. You should have all received the agenda, and we will go down the agenda unless there are any objections to that. First up, we have the minute approvals. Now, I show that we approved these minutes already at our last meeting, but is that not the case? Because have we not had a meeting between August 19th and here? Okay, all right. Okay, because then in that case, I would ask that the change that be made in the meeting. So in minutes approval, you say that we approve the meetings from the August 19th meeting in the ones labeled for August 19th. And so if we can make that change, because that was what was confusing me, then we will be good. Is there a motion to approve the minutes with that change?
I'd motion to approve with that change.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right. All in favor? Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right. Meeting agenda approved with the change. Thank you for doing that. We do let's see, Chris, sorry, Caitlin, do you have any public comments that we need to address?
No, there's no public comment.
Okay. Future plan, future topics, we do not have any. So now I'm going to turn the time over to item number 5. Jim, do you want to take it from there?
Yes, please. So as you all know, we had planned for some public tours. Early on, we planned to have a number of events at not just the new high school, but also our transformation buildings. In the end, we were able to do the new high school tours for a small group, and then had planned to do the transformation buildings, and we ran into the forest fires that kind of set that back. And then just since then, because of COVID and other restrictions, we've not been able to reschedule that. Actually had kind of planned to do it here in this last 2 weeks, but the freeze put a damper on that. So at this point, it is something we do plan to get back to, but I'm not exactly sure when that's going to happen. So I continue to work with the superintendent and the board on the timing of that, and we will certainly get back to all of you and get invitations out when the time is right.
All right. Are there any concerns from members of the board on that or questions? All right. Yep. We appreciate the improv flexibility that this year has brought us. So, all right, let's move on to updates. Report to the community. I assume this is a wrap-up report that I will be writing with input from the board.
Actually, this is the report to the community that we've done the last couple of years. It's the mailer that goes out to everyone within the district. And so what we're hoping for is that maybe 1 or 2 of the committee members could work with us to kind of finalize that, make sure it is in fact what the committee would like it to read. And then we'll get that out as soon as we can. We're changing up how we're going to put that together this year. So it's taken a little bit longer than I'd hoped. But.
Okay, is it still going to be a printed mailer or is it okay? So first off, do we have any volunteers for, in fact, actually, hold on, before we do volunteers. Let's throw it open for discussion as to maybe topics that we would like to make sure are included for that, and then maybe we can talk about individuals that might be best suited to. So in addition to any content that that Jim and the district might want to put in there, what else from our board do we think we need to report out on? So I'll get the conversation started, I guess. I think maybe a wrap up on budget and over under in layman's terms kind of a thing would be good. I think calling out some things that were added in might be. There was a few lists of things that we were able to add in that were above what was kind of promised in the bond. Is there any hesitation on that? Okay. In fact, actually, I'm going to change my view here. I can't quite see everybody. How about let's see additions. So I know that there has been a couple of comments that have been made to me about the bond premium and whether that costs more, to individual taxpayers or not. And so I'm wondering if we could do maybe a short thing on that as maybe as part of the budget, just to try to explain that. That's another idea. So bond premium. Do we want any, I would love to, I'm putting my marketing hat on. I would love to get any interesting facts or quotes or things like that from, Jim, I don't know if you collected those kind of things on the tours. I know our group was talking about a lot of different things and made a lot of good comments. But I don't know if we collected those in a systematic way or if we could go to the teachers. I know some, were initially underwhelmed, but then, a week later they were super overwhelmed. So, we could get good quotes from there. So there might be some, a quote section. Any other ideas? Come on, James, what do you got for me? What else should we put in this?
I was trying to unmute.
Okay.
Thought would be, go ahead, Eric.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, James.
Is the continuation, there's still funding left in there for the curriculum and technology, to make sure to point that out.
Okay, so future plans, or here's how the rest of it is gonna, and maybe a schedule for. I think it was super useful to hear, hey, this bond covers the next, I think it was 10 years or 5 years or something of curriculum for these different things. So, okay, Eric.
I think it's important to point out the schedule that we, everything was hit as far as the schedule goes, even though we couldn't use the buildings.
Yep.
That's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, we started with a steel tariff that we weren't sure how it was gonna affect, and ended with COVID and firestorms, forest fires. So, okay. Any other comments, Chad?
I think it'd be important. This is, I guess, kind of the last one, right? To talk about how well I think our perspective of how the district performed and how all the contracting community performed, Rick and his team, Casey, others, almost kind of a parade of success to recognize all the different organizations that pulled this together. Like Eric said, on time,
Right.
under budget, and so I think that's something I would like to have included, is something that of how we feel the district performed, which in my opinion was exceptionally well, and as well as recognizing all the other parties involved.
All right, I like that. Any other comments?
It's a great list and very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, so I don't know if all of these are a full article in this. If I'm looking at this, I probably see three. One is kind of a district public partnership, and the different players involved, the hitting the budget, the additional things that were added, the schedule being hit, and then maybe the future plans, right? I could see that being a cohesive narrative. And then I see a quotes or pictures with quotes interspersed as being maybe a second article of some sort. And then an explanation of the bond premium would be, I mean, I'm thinking if we could get people to read a paragraph about that, then that would be a win. But I don't know that that's, like a half pager or anything. So, but it doesn't really fit with the other things. So I see the main article as being, and in fact, the only other thing I might pull out of that first article, if it's looking too big, is, this term you used is kind of a parade of thank yous or acknowledgements or things like that for the, we had some fantastic project management. We had, the contractors, the subcontractors, all of these people that, even if we can't do a huge spotlight, I think it's worth, and everybody at the district office and the people that were on the steering committee for the input and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's worth just saying, hey, here's everybody who had their hand in it to show that it was really a community effort. And I don't know, Jim, if that's if we have an easy to find list of all of those people. It might be the same people that you were inviting to the tours, but I don't know. So I don't know how big of an effort that is, but that might be pulled out and then just have a maybe a final. I would volunteer maybe for that final report part of it. Is there anybody that would like to volunteer for a thank you list, or who is that easiest to come from, like people involved? I feel bad, Jim. I think it might be easiest for you to get it, but your name should be at the top of the list. So I'll put that one on.
My name certainly does not belong at the top of the list. And I think we could certainly put together a list. In fact, I had started early on kind of tracking contractors and so forth that had a direct connection within our community. Like our electrician at the high school, their vice president is a member of our community and has kids at Middleton, or now actually at SMS, those kinds of things. I'll be honest, I'm a little hesitant to put a list in because I fear we'd miss somebody. And with as many people that did play a critical role, I would be concerned we'd miss someone that deserved a lot of accolades. And
okay,
but I think maybe I think a more generic parade of thank yous might be appropriate. It's definitely appropriate, but it might work better for us than trying to name specific.
Yeah, and that's fine. We could do again a couple of names, but I like your idea of, because even if I said, hey, and 15 of our subcontractors have ties to Sherwood or have kids in our school, like if you were to say it like that, that's not specifically calling out the names, but it's calling out, and we had 20 teachers on the advisement, groups, and we had 70 people, you know what I mean? If we just say, hey, this is a community event, and thank you to all, and then we could, there are some people though that we could probably put out by name and still not make people feel like they were left out because they'd be in that big group of generic ones. So
Absolutely.
So do you want to take a stab at that? Just flesh out your list, and I'll give it the final once over. Is there anybody that would
Yep.
like to tackle this bond premium issue? About what that means? Because that was the only question I've heard people say is, well, what is issuing premium bonds do to my taxes? And so I just,
So Taylor, that was actually the only other thing that I was going to put under updates that I didn't get onto the agenda was the bond premium, because we had kind of an outstanding question that I felt I answered well, but felt I also need to come back to about whether or not we have to pay back the bond premium, and we do not. It is, basically we put out the bonds and some people are willing to pay more than the face value of the bond, kind of like when you put your house on the market and you get above asking price. It's the same kind of thing, and we don't have to pay it back. But I think maybe it's something that I'm going to volunteer Rick Rainone that he and I could tackle together, to put a one paragraph. What is the bond premium? Why is it important? Because that really helped us buy a lot of that extra stuff.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And not only that, so the article that was forwarded to me that I'll forward to both of you is just from Oregon, the Oregonian, where it was kind of talking about how some schools were doing it, and yes, it was legal, but it ends up costing a lot of money for the tax, and it didn't sound exactly like what we did, but it was one of those things where I'm like, yeah, this feels like it's muddying the water. And so I want to just be real clear about it. And if anybody has that issue, just put it to bed. So I'd appreciate that. What about quotes and photographs? Do we have an easy source for that, or?
I don't think we have easy access to quotes at the moment, particularly from the tours. I'm not sure we collected any photos. We've been taking photos from day one and have a few. And then we also, we're still doing photos and trying to get them of each entrance, kind of more professional photos that can be used in a variety of purposes. That easy enough to come to.
Okay. So as a board, what do we want to do? Do we want quotes? Do we want to try to get some? Do we want to just ask friends and family and email them to a particular person, or what? Or do we want to cut that?
Given that this is a report to the community from this group, it might be appropriate that we had quotes from you as members.
Okay.
So you could
That'd be a lot easier
with Caitlin and I.
Okay, so why don't we have that be an action item for everybody on the board to give a quote about, if you went on the tour, something about that, about the, the value you think it adds to the community, whatever you're thinking about. Why don't we reply to Caitlin, and Caitlin, if you also want to just follow up to everybody else. There may be two that are on this call right now, and just as an action item, just let everybody know that we need a quote. And obviously shorter is better, but say what you want to say. All right.
Great.
And I'll take a stab at and how I'll do this is I'll put a Google Doc together with the comments that we just made about the budget, the additional items. Although I'll have to dig back through my notes to find that, but I didn't see it on the agenda we just got sent. It seems like that was about a year ago or so. We got all those additional items. If you've got quick access to those, then send me that. If not, I'll look back in my notes. But then we'll and then the future plans for the curriculum. I'll just look back at our notes from that presentation as well and see, for that paragraph. And then I'll share the Google Doc with everybody on this call. And if there's changes or things that need to be done, go ahead and just make them or make comments, and we'll wrap it all in. All right. Any other comments about what should be in that? Okay. Fantastic. Let's let's move on to our next item. Variance report. We have nothing on that. Did we want to?
Actually, Taylor, may I interrupt? Rick's actually going to cover a couple of items that kind of fall into the variance report theme.
Great.
Good. Good evening, Chair and Board and administrators. It's been a long process. It's been challenging from time to time, but it's certainly ending out successful. And we, from all the project teams, are looking forward to when students get to truly enjoy what the bond has funded on their behalf, because I think they're going to be the most impressed with their high school and the transformations and the other projects that we've done. So I have two things to share with you tonight. First is the variance is the schedule. So we were ready for kids. We would have needed some help from the city, who I think should be acknowledged through the process. The governing agencies have a tough challenge in that they're the ones responsible that projects meet code, that projects, meet all of the things the code makes them responsible for: fire, life safety, structural integrity, and just getting in and out of buildings safely. And they have been very helpful through the last part of our projects. But the variance is, we wanted to be done by now, and we're not done by now. We're still working on closing the projects out. A lot of that's just a financial closeout. We're anticipating that through that process, we're going to get some deductive change orders from our contractors, and so we feel good about that. But we're not done, so that's a variance. Most of
Rick, as
Yeah.
somebody who doesn't understand all the terms, deductive variance, does that mean we're getting it for cheaper than we were expecting?
Oh, it's a deductive change order. So yeah, for the high school, we're still working on verifying the value of that deductive change order. We don't know what it is, but we believe we will finish the project with a deductive change order, which is how you want to finish them. You don't want to finish with an additive change order. You want to finish with a deductive one. But the schedule for a lot of the outbuildings and areas that will be used by students, we're not done. So just to be open and transparent to the committee, we're not done yet. We're going to stick with it until we are done. We can see the finish line, but we still have some work ahead of us to finish the projects and say we are completely finished. So that's what I think is the variance, is that we're still working on some issues, mostly related outside of our buildings, a few inside of our buildings. The other thing that
Hey,
Jim,
Rick.
yes,
Rick, sorry to interrupt. Let's be a little specific, but like our greenhouse.
yeah, I'm going to cover that in my.
Okay.
I'm going to cover that. So, with that said, one of the things that I got asked to do is talk to my team and find out what's still out there. Lingering is a word that we could use, and there's three things that I know are still out there. They're all achievable. We're still working to get all the doors in the greenhouse on site and installed. Casey's taking the lead on that. He's on top of it. He's doing a great job. But we're still working on getting the doors here and getting them installed. The other thing that we're trying to work out on the greenhouse is code got in our way. The new efficient code related to mechanical equipment does not allow us to put in the size of heater that we want in that greenhouse. When you build a greenhouse like that, the greenhouse obviously generates heat, but in order to get us through other times, we normally put a larger heating system in than the code allows. We've hired a company called Code One to help us write a code variance, and we feel comfortable that that code variance will be done in the next week or so, and we'll submit that to the city and get approval. But the mechanical system and the permits associated with the mechanical system of the greenhouse is something we're still working on. And the last thing that the team shared with me is, for a building the size of the high school, it takes a long time to make the mechanical system work properly. What we like to do is go through a winter and go through a hotter part of the year so that we make sure that we balance the system and it heats properly when it needs to heat and cools properly when it needs to cool. We were able to put air conditioning in most of that building. And so what we've done is we've hired a commissioning agent, a third party that goes in and looks at the mechanical system and tests it to make sure that it will work. And that is something Casey is also leading. We like our commissioning agent. The contractors have been very responsive to what the commissioning agent is asking them to do. So it's really the greenhouse and doing the final adjustments on the heating, ventilating, and cooling systems that we're still working on. So that's what my team shared with me, and that's issues that we're still working on. The good news is, if you look at the number of projects that we took on from when we started the bond in 2017, that's a really small list of issues that we're still working on. So we'll stick with it. We'll get those issues completed, and we're very confident that in a short period of time we can get them completed.
So Rick, I've got a question about a couple, at least one of them, the AC heating system in the high school. It feels like you wouldn't really want to do that until the students are there. They generate a lot of heat.
Yeah. Well, agreed. And we were having to make adjustments because COVID has changed our life, right? And
yeah,
I mean, the best way to do it is load it up with students and then do the final adjustments. We know we have tremendous capacity to heat and cool, but sometimes we have to make adjustments to make all the rooms that have, more students in it than others. And so what we're doing is we have a third party commissioning agents verifying that everything we bought works, right? And we may have to come back once we bring 2,000 heaters or 1,700 heaters in, right? Because schools are unique buildings. We heat them before students come in, and then as soon as the students get in there, sometimes we shift to cooling. We invested in systems that use outside air to cool as our first attempt to cool the building, and then mechanical cooling when needed. So we want to make sure it all works and that a third party tells us it all works. But the real test will be when we load it with students, and we may have to make some minor adjustments, but we will have a report from a commissioning agent that says it's doing what it was designed to do, and all the components work. If that
Taylor, I'll just add to that from Rick that when kids get here, we may experience an additional set of issues that we're not experiencing now because, like you're saying, the load factor is not there. A lot of what we're dealing with, though, like Rick said, is just really making sure that the system is working appropriately as it is now. We've had a couple of just kind of freeze stat issues, which is basically where the temperatures have created systems shut down when they shouldn't be shutting down, regardless of the load. So we're working through that, and then also just pressurization issues. And that would be very helpful to have kids and to know if there is pressurization issues, because right now we're having some. So yeah, it's definitely something we're going to relook at when kids get in the building.
And what I would add to that, that is not uncommon for a building this size.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I would say it is common, and we were able to hire a third party to help us verify that systems work and equipment is sized right. So it's not uncommon for a building of this size to take a little bit longer than smaller buildings do to get fully adjusted.
All right, no, that's fine. So then my second comment or question was, even with the greenhouse issues still being outstanding, did we get still our certificate of occupancy and everything else by, like, was that on, like, if COVID wasn't a thing, we could have students in the building right now. It's functional and usable as a school. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, Casey, go ahead and give him an update of, again, a building this size. We work from temporary occupancy. We worked with the city to get approval to bring staff in, right? And, but there were some restrictions on that. You can bring staff in, but not the public at large. And so Casey, kind of give him an update of where we are for the occupancy process with the city of Sherwood, please.
Yeah, I think Rick said earlier is that, the governing agencies have a hard time, navigating this a lot. And so one of the things that they kind of used us as a little bit of a hammer to help Kerr get done. And so, they were using probably leverages that they wouldn't use on other projects to try to help Kerr get done. And by, kind of saying, hey, the road's got to be done before we'll have kids in there. But the reality is it was safe through fire, life safety, and that they could have allowed us to have kids there, as early as July when we were there. So it's really, a unique perspective they have with a road going on at the same time as a high school being built. And I think that they've used that as to their advantage to get Kerr to be more proactive in getting their completion done, where most jurisdictions don't have that hammer to help them get a road project done on time. And I mean, we've all endured road projects that can linger on forever. So yeah, I think that, we are allowed to have kids in the building right now, and we have kids in the building periodically before this last freeze. And so but our final CFO, we were just talking with Sean Walker, our project manager, earlier. He's got a final walkthrough with some bike rack issues with the planning group over at the city, and then also the engineering department wants some as-built, and we're really probably within 2 to 3 weeks of having the final CFO complete.
Yeah, and just so everybody understands, Skanska was responsible for everything on district property, and we made a decision to partner with the county on what we were conditioned to do, because the county already had a project in the planning phase when we started. And after a few meetings and discussing what was the best way to buy the roads, we didn't want 2 contractors. We didn't want the county hired one and the district hired another. That creates its own list of challenges. And I agree with Casey. We need to get students in our building as a motivation for Kerr, who is working for the county on the offsite work. But it's been deemed safe. The fire life safety systems, all of those systems work and are functioning. And so we're just in the final stages of getting the final certificate of occupancy, which usually means everybody on site and off site has done everything that they need to do. And we feel really good about where we are.
All right. Thank you. That's a great answer. I just want to make sure I'm accurate in my report out to the community. So
sure.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from members of the board about the variance report? All right. Anything else from you, Rick?
No, I think Casey's going to give you an update of the projects. He's very close to him. He's been involved in everything we've done there in the last 12 months. So I don't know if that's next on the agenda, but Casey can give you an update on everything we've been working on for the last 12 months.
All right, go ahead, Casey.
So I, really want to take this opportunity just to kind of highlight some of the things that since we've had staff and administration in there that they've kind of emphasized as kind of really the highlights of the building. So I'll start at the new high school. I think that a lot of you have obviously been there. The community connection that's there with the people walking the site, the athletics, and I mean that's obviously what we've been able to use the most is really just been a huge standout. I mean, everybody who comes there has nothing but compliments to say about how well it flows, the access to all the facilities, and just the quality that they are is really been highlighted and talked about a lot. Inside the building, everyone talks about just the openness and how well it flows, the amount of lighting that comes through, and then also the security of the main entrance. This is the first school that we've done where we planned this kind of really good welcoming secure vestibule where when you immediately go in and you see someone ready to greet you with kind of a real warm reception desk there. So that's been one of the things that have really stood out from the people I talked to and the comments I'm hearing from staff and administration. Just kind of on the theme of what's left, we talked about the greenhouse. We're kind of wrapping up our closeout with Skanska. They've turned in all their O&Ms and as-builds to the architect and are being reviewed. And we're just doing those final checks with our planning department of the city of Sherwood and also the engineering department. Offsite, I think that if you've had a chance to walk around as well, you get the same feel. You got really safe access to the high school from everywhere in Sherwood. Even our kind of blacktop that's over there on Edie kind of takes you through the neighborhood, and you can get there safely through the newest neighborhood over there before you get to Elwert to the new sidewalks. And then the roundabout itself, I mean, nice big wide open sidewalks too. It's one of the things that when we were going through planning that I thought was really going to prove to be beneficial to the district. But I mean, they have these wide meandering sidewalks rather than the bike lanes, and so it's a lot of open space, especially with our social distancing we have to do right now. So it's been real nice to see everybody use that. The roundabout itself, I think, flows really nice. We haven't really had to test it yet without the students being there, but for the most part, when you drive through, the traffic flows a lot better at 4 o'clock in the afternoon than it ever had before. So at the middle school, the things that really stand out is the new covered activities entrance. A lot of you have middle schoolers. You've gone up there and picked up supplies from there, and they're able to do the lunch and breakfast pickups there. So that space has really turned out, to be a huge advantage to the school, and they found ways to use it. The science rooms are nice and bright inside, and then the extended learning spaces, which probably was the thing that I took out of looking at them, is they really opened up the building. The west side of the building, was pretty dark space. We put in 2 big activity extended learning areas there, and that's really opened it up. So big things there. Covered play structures, obviously a real nice space too. It was the design team, put a kind of an interesting look where you got a basketball hoop in the middle of the covered play, so that you take advantage of every opportunity you can there with the space that's open. Same thing there. We're just working on closeout with Triple Woman. They're scheduled to have their O&Ms turned in this week as well. Get that wrapped up. EST, that transformation happens as soon as you walk in the door too. You get that big, nice, bright learning hub with the skylights, and then the big staircase that takes you downstairs. One of the things that I didn't think about when we were designing this was how much that staircase makes that building easier to maneuver. It was really kind of hard to think about where you're at all times, but once you kind of have that to kind of go back to, it's hard. You don't get lost as easily. So that was a big win with that kind of space, especially with becoming an elementary school. So that really turned out amazing. They used some pretty cool reclaimed wood underneath that staircase. So when you do go in there, you have to check that out, because that's the old flooring that is still up there, but they reused downstairs to kind of bring that fill in there. Same thing there. We got, you know, some good extended learning spaces there. You know, bring some connectivity. And then I don't know if you guys had a chance, but the new playground was opened up a couple weeks back, and that's just a really cool space back there with the kind of the grass and the kind of the tall structures that are there. We did have an issue with the playground ramps out there in the back playground that we got fixed, and so those have been repaired. And then we are working close out there as well. We got O&Ms and as-builts coming in the next week or so as well. The DOT, I think that anybody who goes in there would have a hard time seeing how it was a school before. I mean, you can't really see where the classrooms were, and you know, now with the offices in there, obviously the connection of all the teams there has proven to be really beneficial, and just a lot of conference rooms and professional development spaces that'll be utilized for years to come when we're able to get in closer together. So same thing there. We were working on closeout with Skanska, and then we have a couple of landscaping and fence issues that are getting wrapped up this week. The ridges, you know, one of the main goals of the project was obviously to make it one school. So when you go there now, you can go into the old community room as the main entrance, and right away it feels like it was always meant to be. You got a nice big grand entrance with a nice dedicated secure vestibule there. So it turned out really good right there as well. Then we did add one new extended learning, but that school already had quite a bit of extended learning, so you know we just added to it. It was a nice school as it was. We didn't have to do a lot to make it there. It was just kind of making it feel like it was always one school, and I think that they did a really good job of that. At the Ridges, we are 100% closed out. We've received all the O&Ms. I'm going through them right now to get them transfer them into the district, and kind of working on just the only issue I have there that I'm working through is Reese, is it our security vendor. They have a couple issues they're working through with the front entry and getting a new camera put up for our admin team to be able to see.
One thing I would add to that.
Oh, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, thank you, Casey. One thing I would add to that is what we did to transform the buildings from a high school to a middle school, and in some cases from a middle school to an elementary school. What we were able to do more than we originally thought we could, and the fact that Dr. Cordy kept challenging the teams that I don't want these to just be minor, you know, improvements. Don't just paint it and make it look better. Transform the building and make it better. And I would pass on compliments to the design team and to the contractors that we selected. We really did transform those buildings. And so when you get a chance to see them, hopefully you'll be able to compare what they used to look like and what they look like now. And they have been an independent success story. That the high schools, you know, it's the aircraft carrier, and it's the one that every student's going to go to. But what we did with the transformations, I think, really makes a difference for both students, staff, and the community as well. So Casey and the team did a good job there.
Just one thing I really want to just compliment, like you guys, your district. I mean, this is the team you guys see, but behind the scenes, you know, Ken's assistant Cheryl, you know, she just takes ownership of that security system, and she's, you know, always making sure that, you know, everything's working perfectly, so that, you know, everybody's secure and feeling good about that. It's just the ownership that they all take. We have Norm as our HVAC tech, and he's just up there at the high school, kind of making sure that Ken and I know what's going on there, so that we can make sure that system's working appropriately, and it's not just being, you know, kind of sloughed off to the side. And so a lot of good ownership from the behind the scenes team that's really helping us make sure that, you know, we bring home the projects and that they're maintainable, and that everyone can be excited to come to school every day.
That was a great update. Thank you very much. Are there any questions about the projects from the board members that are currently in process? Yeah, I can't wait to see them myself. Okay.
Taylor, this is Jim. I would just add kind of from where we started talking about our schedule is that those items that were that Casey just brought up at each of our transformations in the high school are for the most part kind of warranty issues or
Punch list issues.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the punch list word.
There you go.
Punch list issues. The exception being that the greenhouse. And so, you know, when we talk about being done, we really are there. It's kind of those nitty gritty pieces that pop up at the end that we're resolving and moving forward with.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, frankly, with COVID and everything else, it does feel like we've all trained for a marathon. We've been running the marathon and then we had to stop about 5 feet from the finish line. So it's a little anticlimactic, but I appreciate the keeping pushing forward and having it and bringing it all the way to completion. All right, do we want to look at the financial summary and do you have any questions on that?
Rick, did you want to kind of give the overall bottom line where we're at? I guess before I hand it off to you, Rick, I'll just share with folks that since you saw this last in August, the biggest thing is that we've paid to date a lot on the new high school and the transformation projects. We continue to spend out on safety and security and deferred maintenance a little bit. And even though that curriculum budget is, you know, good for another 6-7 years, we continue to spend some of that each year as well. And so kind of as you look at the uncommitted budgets and the paid to date, those numbers are changing since August, which really was the July report for you, because we've been spending the money completing these projects. And then the last one is just line 19, just showing that we've increased our ETO money because we continue to try to leverage any dollars that we can. And so that number, I think, went up about, I think it basically doubled. So,
yeah.
And Rick, I'll let you share the.
Good. What I would just share as an overview and a reminder that this district chased every penny we could chase. We got a seismic grant that really helped us along the way. We have chased the 1149 in ETO money that is really money collected by PGE, and it's used to fund projects that meet certain energy efficient criteria. We chased every penny available. We're not done. We're still chasing some. And the district was decisive. What I told Jim about a year ago is the goal is we finish everything we promised and more, and we have $5 left. Well, we're going to have more than $5 left, and we have completed everything that was included in the bond promise and more. And Chair, I think it's wise that the Oversight Committee kind of share with the community the additional things that we bought with exactly the same amount of investment from the taxpayers. It's a great story. You know, when we give financial updates and you know, we started with what, 300 million and now we're down to 300,000. It's been a long run. We kept every bill paid on time. We kept people working through COVID, the fires, everything we've challenged. But I'm very pleased to report to the Bond Oversight Committee that we're going to finish the bond promise and more. And there will be some money left over for future decisions that get made along the way. So yeah, it's been a good run. And whenever you can finish a bond and have money left over, it's a great story.
Yeah, I concur. Thank you for calling that out. I'm going to make that, you know, maybe the headline of the of the update. I would say, and this is not a directive or anything, but if we could use some of that money, some of the signs that say Sherwood High School on the side that are on the road have black lettering on very dark bricks. And I feel like we could do silver lettering or something so that you could see the letters. I don't know if it's just me and my old eyes, or if anybody else has noticed that the signs on the side of the road and on the main drop off are this part that says Sherwood High School. I think the bricks that were used are maybe a little too dark, and so we could probably just throw some silver or something behind that, or shadow them or something. But that is just a designer and me coming out to say, hey, we got 300,000. Let's get some silver letters in there. So.
Taylor, this is Jim again. I would point out for this committee's just information is that the fact that we have the money left over, we still are required to spend it within what was originally passed as the bond. And so it's not money that's left that we can then go do something completely unrelated to the projects that were approved. So we could do the lettering. That's obviously part of the project. What we can't do is now go hire staff,
Right.
those kinds of things. And so I will tell you that the last bond in 2006, there was some money left there. That allowed us about 3 years ago to repair some drainage issues that we had at the ridges on their soccer field that was quite bad. Having those resources available to us to do that was a huge benefit. And so I think the district will be judicious in how we spend those dollars and not look to go just complete the next project on the list, but we'll be really considering how do we utilize these dollars to benefit us, not just today, but into the future as well.
Yeah, and frankly, I would expect there to be some things where we didn't, that we're going to have to adjust in the future with the amount of projects and the different things that are done. Frankly, it would be almost unbelievable to not have something that we, in fact, that was the funniest thing about, when I was leaving the walkthrough, is I was like, if the signage is the only thing that was a nitpick, that's remarkable, right? That there's that much stuff that it was done, but it's such a high quality and high caliber that it is really remarkable. So I'm all in supportive of that. All right, well, thank you very much for that report. Any other comments about the variance or the financial statement? Let me pull up my agenda. Okay. All right. So for the board report input, I think what I will do is the board report will probably be a draft of the letter that I'm going to be sending to the community. It feels like it's a lot of the same items. I don't know that I'd add any, the only thing I might call out to the board is maybe the greenhouse stuff, but they're probably already aware of it. So I don't know that it's really worth my time to do something separate. I think Casey, you gave me a great list of highlights at all of the different sites, and so I might just want all of those kind of in the record. So any other things that you'd like me to tell the school board?
One thing, the city has been a good partner as we have wrapped these projects up. And so I think it's appropriate that their willingness to work with us, and Jim really reached out to the city manager and did some great work to help us kind of get down to the finish line together. So it's not worth a paragraph, but that the city kind of was a partner as we went through this is something that you might want to think about.
That's great. I will add that in. That was one of my comments from your comments that I wrote
Right.
down, was how helpful
Okay.
the city was. And
Thank
frankly,
you.
for most of the residents of the city, I would say, if I had to guess, maybe 70% of them think that the city and the school district are run by the same people, right? You know, there's, in their minds, they're like, what, you guys are all you're all part of the same family here. So I want to call that out, because it's worth noting that the citizens expect us to work together, city and school district. And so I want to report out that yes, they were indeed working together and good partners. So thank you for that. Any other comments for the board letter or the board report? Okay. All right. Well, I think we're about done. I'm going to do another round robin here. But before I throw it open, I just want to thank every one of you for the time that you've given to this bond oversight. Several of you are in the building industry and provided some expert opinion and insight that I never would have in a million years gotten. James, you kicked this off with being part of the reason this bond passed. And so, you know, some of the expertise and the time that you've dedicated this has really made a difference in our community. So I just wanted to give a thank you to all the board members, and I'll now go around the room here and just see if there's anything else before we adjourn for the night. And I guess Jim, is it okay to say, hey, we'll adjourn until if there is a need for, you know, a final wrap-up meeting once the last penny is spent? I don't know how these things go, but if there's something like that, then I guess we'll reconvene. Otherwise, we'll have no planned meetings. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, I think that's it at this point. We'll be having some discussions with the board as to how they want to monitor the curriculum and technology piece over the next number of years, and what role this group might have with that. So, but at this time, we have no further meetings scheduled.
All right. Any other board members have any other things before we adjourn?
No, I just want to say thanks, Taylor. Thanks for all your hard work. You've done a great job chairing this committee. I appreciate it.
Of course. All right. James, do you have something?
I agree. I think you did a great job, Taylor. And as I said at the last meeting, I'm just really impressed with how everything came together, all the hard work, and to be on budget. I think that's huge. I know for the community at large, that's a huge concern, is how much this thing gonna blow up with the budget, and under is incredible. So well done, and kudos to everybody.
Yeah, I would say under, and getting other companies to throw in more money, you know, and grants and stuff like that. That's again, that's part of the headline, I think. I also want to, you know, Casey and Rick, both of you have done a phenomenal job. This is my first major construction project like this, but if I had to extrapolate my house construction projects and how many things I had to deal with on a regular basis versus how few things I've had to deal with on this, you guys have done a remarkable job. So I went in expecting a nightmare, and frankly, like I've told anybody who will listen, this experience with dealing with the project team on this has turned around my philosophy on kind of local government. So it's really been a very different experience for me to see people of your caliber who have really gone out of their ways to make sure that you know, the money is spent well, wisely, and just top-notch work. So thank you, both of you, for your effort. And let's just make sure that $300,000 doesn't go to Rick's vacation home. So.
It's not.
Thanks,
Thank
Taylor.
you.
I appreciate it.
Rick doesn't get vacations.
Yeah, that's
all right.
all right. Thank you, everybody.
Oh, Jim, did you have something else?
I just want to say that this entire project and delivering it on time and under budget was absolutely a team effort, and number of team members is huge across our community. But I really do appreciate you as a committee taking the time to work with us, to help us along the way, to be that skeptical voice that says, really, is that what we're doing? And I'm glad that we were able to deliver to your satisfaction. And I can't wait for kids to get in the building, because that's what it's all about, is having kids in schools. But thank you for your time and effort here, folks. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, with that being said, I adjourn the meeting.